Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are starting a new study, the book, The Fall of Human Intellect. A book that has about, it has 10 chapters describing what the intellect is and telling us what is the fall. What we will be doing is, first, before we enter into the study of the text, let us cover some basic grounds first. Let us cover some basic grounds and then move into the study of the text. The basic ground that we wanted to cover is, we have been hearing this intellect for so long, still it is very elusive in making us not understand what intellect is. We have been hearing this word intellect for so long. Still it is very elusive in making us understand what it is. So what we will do is, we'll try to cover some basics about this, and then we will move on to the textbook. Because we are going to cover some basics and giving some introductory things about this intellect, a very unique thing which I will generally not do is to show some chart and all that from next week, not today. It was all ready, but then I just couldn't review it. So from next week, we will do that also. If you generally I don't do these things, because in a classroom like this, we shouldn't be needing those kind of gimmicks. All that is for kindergarten children. We have to do all that. But here I said we will do it a little bit, because we have to cover the basic ground of what this intellect itself is, so that when we go and say he is talking about the fall of the intellect. So first, let us try to understand a little bit about this thing called intellect. First thing is, reasoning is the human being's instinct. The intellectual instinct of a human being is to reason. The physical instinct we understand, correct? Each and every instrument has an instinct. What are the instincts of the physical body? You understand the sensual demands, food, clothes. So there are certain instincts at the body level. There are certain instincts at the mind, emotional, and then there is something at the level of the intellect. So the first thing that we understand is what? Reasoning is instinctively exist in a human being. Now, when we say that it is instinct, it has to be, potential is there, it has to be exercised. Instinct, not in the sense it is pre-programmed and coming. The potential is there, and that potential has to be exercised. Now, this very functioning of this potential intellect, this very function of this instrument intellect, the body helps, the senses helps you to perceive the world. Intellect will make sense out of that perception. Again, senses, the world enters you through the senses. The intellect makes some sense out of those perceptions. And when the intellect makes sense out of those perceptions, the methodology that it uses is reasoning. So first thing that we understand as far as the intellect is concerned is what it is. It is reasoning. And then that reasoning, when we say it is as a potential, it grows in various stages. A dormant intellect, herd intellect, rudimentary, pervert, the intellect that is held hostage, confused, inquiring, seeking, receptive, subtle intellect, prasada buddhi, anugraha buddhi, arpana buddhi. These are all the various things that goes into an intellect. Again, I repeat. Next week, idella or chart mari photo kaatuvom so that you can always make a note of it easily. It's there, but I just couldn't. I didn't have time for spelling checks along today. This intellect is dormant. As a first, it is a potential. Are you able to understand? It exists as a potential, and that potential goes through very many stages. Dormant, herd. Herd means so many people are doing no. Therefore, let me also. It's the from the dormant intellect. Please understand, all this doesn't happen sequentially. We are talking about it sequentially, but understand it may not happen in the same sequence. The order will differ in different human beings according to their pre-existing capacity of the intellect. Since nobody is born with the zero intellect, all this mixture will happen. But these are the few things that constitutes. What are it? The dormant, the herd, the rudimentary, the pervert. We say pervert, perverted, no? The pervert buddhi, hostage, the intellect that is held hostage. What is the intellect that is held hostage? That's where we read the poem, The Pond, where the intellect is held hostage, confused, rajasic intellect. What is confusion? What looks right in the morning appears right in the wrong in the afternoon. What appeared as wrong in the morning appeared as right in the afternoon. Now there is a confusion, not knowing what to do, confused. Then inquiring nature, the inquiring intellect. It's not only inquiring, there is a receptivity in that intellect, seeking, receptive. And then the beautiful, fantastic aspect of the intellect, the subtle intellect. Prasada buddhi, arpana buddhi, seeing things as anugraha buddhi. All these constitutes, when we use the word intellect, this intellect is a combination of all these factors put together. Little bit pockets here and there. Most will have a bit of everything. That's why it is very confusing. Now, what we are trying to do here as the fall, what are we discussing as a fall? The fall is, remember, to understand intellect, you need to understand two words. Very important two words. I'm using the original Sanskrit word itself, even though the meaning is so much misunderstood, but still it's better to use it. It is better to use the original Sanskrit word itself. In order to understand intellect, you need to understand these two words. It's drishta and adrishta. Again, if you have to understand intellect, you need to know these two words, drishta and adrishta. Drishta means that which can be seen, perceived, understood. Adrishta means that which is not easily available for perception, understanding. Again, I repeat. Drishta means which can be seen. Adrishta means cannot be seen. See, nowadays the word adrishta is misunderstood as luck. ஒரு நல்ல அதிர்ஷ்டம் அவருக்கு நிறைய அதிர்ஷ்டம் இருக்குது நிறைய அதிர்ஷ்டம் he has lot of luck. That's a very poor interpretation. We are not using the word adrishta as in the sense of luck. We are using adrishta in the sense of that's what we are going to see now. In order to understand the fall, you have to understand these two words. Once these two words are understood, then we will know what the fall is, and then we know how to resurrect. First, we are saying there is a fall, and then we are saying it has to be resurrected. In order to understand the fall and in order to know what to do to this resurrection, two words are very important. What are the two words? Drishta and adrishta. Why are we talking about these two? Because there is another word. Pramanam. Three words are very important to understand. Drishta, adrishta, and pramanam. Because knowledge has to be irrefutable, it has to be logic, it has to be precise. It means the methodology by which you get the knowledge has to be foolproof, precise, methodic, logic, reasonable. Any knowledge that doesn't come under any pramanam will be called as, it will not be called as knowledge, it will be called as conjecture, opinions, hallucinations, etc. Why? Because it doesn't come under any pramanam. For example, take the general mindset of the humanity. If there is a person who says, I have seen a ghost, how many people will believe that? Out of 100, here is a man making a statement, I saw a ghost. How many people will believe that? Out of 100? Actually, 80-85 will believe. They will accept. Correct, sir, they will say. Correct. Of course, I have heard my uncle also saying it. I have heard my grandmother saying it. I have heard somebody in my village have seen it. What is intellect? I have seen a ghost. Intellect is what is the pramanam to make that statement? What is the pramanam with which you are making that statement? Other than the simple fact that I am saying no. Are you able to follow? Ram Subramaniam. Purida? Sir, நான் தான் பார்த்திருக்கிறேன்னு சொல்றேன். அதுக்கு மேல what other pramanam you need? We say intellect is not at all functioning. So what is intellect now? Intellect is that which verifies a knowledge through valid source. That's called pramanam. And for drishta and adrishta, there are pramanams. Because previously we used the word drishta and adrishta. Pramanam. Now we explained what is drishta means, that which can be seen by the senses, proven by the senses, proven by logic, reason, intellect, inference. All this is pramanam. Correct? We have discussed this in detail when we studied Atma Bodha. We discussed all this in detail when we studied Atmabodha. But sir, Atmabodha, how do we remember? How do you remember what we studied in Atmabodha and all? So we need to revisit that pramanam. And it is very, very important to understand what am I going to use as pramanam. What is the definition of a pramanam? Pramanam means a source of valid knowledge. A source of valid knowledge. Using that, we come into contact with the subject and the object and understand there is a subject, there is an object. That is called a pramanam. Why are we talking about all this? Because Fall of Human Intellect is an introductory textbook. In an introductory textbook, we have to introduce certain words. That is the reason for studying these introductory books. In the middle of Vedanta treatise, we come back to an introductory text. Why? This introductory text gives us an opportunity to revisit the basics and go back to the text again. And then we finish, when we go to law of karma, theory of perception, maya, tattvamasi, aham brahmasmi, and all that, we'll be floating so high that what will be forgotten? The basics are forgotten. So when we know when the basics are forgotten, do a text that will help us to revisit the basics again. What are the basics? 3 words: pramanam, drishta, and adrishta. First thing that we understand is a pramanam. What is the definition of a pramanam? The pramanam is by which a knowledge is gained. Established source of knowledge which can be proved and verified is a praman. An established knowledge that can be verified, proved, other than the mere statement of somebody is called pramanam. And the intellect is to exercise the use of pramanam and gain conviction on the right knowledge. That is the purpose of the intellect. Using the sources of pramanam, it will go through gaining knowledge and gather a proper understanding is the use of intellect. What is the method they use for a pramanam? A pramanam should be having these 3: tarka, nyaya, mimamsa. Logic, reason, analysis. For the knowledge to be called as a pramanam, it should have a few things. What are the few things? It should have tarka, logic, nyaya, reasoning, mimamsa, analysis. So logic, reason, analysis is the method by which a pramanam gets established. And the establishment of the pramanam gives you the right knowledge. Why are we so concerned about the knowledge, gaining the right knowledge? Why are we so concerned about it? Go from the basics now. We feel bound, constricted, restricted, bandham. We feel bound. There is bondage. And we say moksha is understanding of that bondage. Moksha is understanding of that bondage. The very fact that you understand what bondage is, you become free. So moksha is understanding of what bondage is. If we say moksha is understanding of what bondage is, and what do they say? This bandha, this bondage is a superimposition. This is said. You are bound. Correct. I feel restricted, constricted. Correct. I want freedom from this restriction. I want freedom from this restriction. I want freedom from this constriction. I want freedom from all these. A superimposition, this bondage is called as superimposition. Carefully follow the logic now. A superimposition can be destroyed only by knowledge of the truth. Again, introductory textbooks are romba kashtamar, isn't it? Sir, Isavasya Upanishad was very easy, sir. Bhagavad Gita and all was much easier. But this introductory textbook seems to be more complicated than those higher textbooks. Therefore, people skip this. By skipping this, what they miss, they misunderstanding those scriptures. That's why we want to, whenever we get a chance, we want to do introductory textbooks and come back to it again and again. So, bondage is what you experience, and that bondage is known as superimposition. And since it is superimposition, only a knowledge can remove the superimposition. Are you okay till now? All this is going to be proven. First statements will be made and each and every statement will be proven later. And then we'll go into the text fall of human intellect. It's such a beautiful textbook it is. Such an extraordinary textbook it is. Knowledge is produced by a pramana. Knowledge is not produced by anything else. Therefore, it is very important for the intellect in order to exercise and understand moksha, bandha as superimposition. It should know how to make valid use of pramanam. You sit in the group discussion and keep looking at people answering one another. You know that they just keep making statements without even understanding the statements. Why? Because these basics are not yet clear. Statements are memorized. You follow? Like, for example, in one of the discussions that we were in recently, how can you say the waker and the waker world is simultaneous? Creation is simultaneous, it is said. I don't remember where it happened, but I remember that so clearly. Waker and the waker world is simultaneous is what is said in the book Vedanta Treatise, in the chapter called Maya, Illusions. The question is, how can you say it is simultaneous when my father and grandfather preceded me? How can I say it is all simultaneous? And I was looking at the answers. Just verbatim repeating what is said in the book. The question is elaborate that, not repeat what is in the book. Are you able to follow? The question is elaborate that is the question, but the answer is repeating it verbatim. Why? Because the intellect is not yet penetrative. Even in concepts also, it is not yet very penetrative. Why? Because these basics are not yet clear. Therefore, what I did, I said we'll come back to Vedanta Treatise again. We'll finish this book, Fall of Human Intellect. Pramana is a means of knowledge or proof that knowledge is valid. It has to be a valid knowledge. In Vedanta, we lay so much of emphasis on knowledge that has to be valid. Valid means it should be open for debate. It should be open for discussions. It should be ready to be, it should be ready to go through logical scrutiny. Correct? Then only true. And no other subject satisfies all this like Vedanta does. For that, pramanas are discovered. Certain words like drishta and adrishta are used. To do all this exercise rightly, properly, pramanams are established, and the word drishta and adrishta is also used. Are you okay till now? Yes. The senses are like doorkeepers to the world. Without the senses, knowledge of the world does not enter. Without the senses, you don't get knowledge of the world. Where comes the challenge for the intellect is here. Where comes the challenge for the intellect is here. Not all things in this universe are grasped straight away by the five senses. If the five senses can grasp everything straight away, there is no need for any other pramanam other than senses itself. Even though senses are like doorkeepers which bring knowledge of the outer world to you, not everything in this universe is grasped by the senses straight away. Therefore, that which the senses grasp has to be inquired. Are you okay till now? Therefore, what the senses grasp has to be inquired. There are a few things which we know through the direct aid of the senses. There are so many things which we know indirectly without the direct aid of the senses. So what they did, that which can be learned through the aid of the senses is grouped as one set of pramanam. That which can never be done through that is grouped as another set of pramanam. Thus, we have four set. Thus, we have four pramanams. If you take the classical Vedanta books, they will talk about 6 sets of pramanam. But for all practical purposes, 4 is enough to, if you understand the 4, that is more than enough. So what are the 4 pramanams? Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Agama, also known as Shabda. Again, the 4 pramanams is Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, and Agama or Shabda. The knowledge that we gain through all these means should be foolproof and fail-proof. Two conditions on knowledge. It should be foolproof and it should be fail-proof. Abdinna, we need to know how to make proper use of these pramanams so that our thinking is clear. Nowadays, we don't want to even do that, isn't it? Why should we bother? Call 10 fellows, write a chat GPT. Why should we waste our time worrying about this thinking and pramanams and all that? Chat GPT, that's going to do all this. What will happen? Chat GPT, artificial intelligence will becoming better and better and better. The human intellect is falling and falling and falling. In the book on chat GPT increase aachina, in the side what is falling? The human intellect is falling. Therefore, pramana means valid means of knowledge, and the knowledge must be foolproof and fail-proof, for which 4 sources are defined. Are you okay till now? Before we go into this pratyaksha, anumana, upamana and all that, you need to understand the very pramanam itself is what? Pramanam means few conditions has to be fulfilled to be known as a pramanam. 3 conditions has to be fulfilled. See, all this will be, before people are exposed to Vedantic textbook, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, they will not be exposed in the beginning. In the traditional way of teaching, they will be exposed to all this first. Because right away, people are exposed to Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads, head or tail is not understood. Not only head or tail is not understood, it is all, if not understood, misunderstanding is maximum. Why? Because the system is not followed properly. What are we trying to do here? Every time we get an opportunity, we are trying to revisit the basics. What are the basics? To be known as a pramanam, understand the sequence. Bondage is a superimposition. Freedom from superimposition comes only through knowledge, correct? Bodhonya sadhane vyogi sakshan mokshaika sadhanam. Since bondage is a superimposition, knowledge alone can remove that superimposition. And knowledge means it has to be valid, foolproof, fail-proof. It means it should be available for analysis, scrutiny, logic, reason, debate, discussions, etc. In order to do all this, certain basic rules of the game should be there, isn't it? Before you play a game, what should you know? The rules, isn't it? Basic rules of the game, Dharanjada. The game will be interesting. What is the rule of the game? Football, there are rules. Cricket, there are rules. Tennis, there are rules. Similarly, when we are approaching a pramanam, that also has some rules. What are they? The first 3 characteristics, what makes a pramanam. All this is what will be taught in the initial stages of in the Gurukula study. Since all this is taught in the initial stages of the Gurukula itself, when the person studies Bhagavad Gita Upanishads, there's no need for these elaborate discussions and all that. Or they can go into such a depth in each and every word. Here we are finding the difficulty because we have missed that part. We are doing that today. When we simply saying we have missed it is not, doesn't make any help. How to cover that gap, how to bridge that gap. Introductory textbook like this helps us to bridge that gap. What are we bridging the gap now? Pramanam, 3 characteristics. The 3 characteristics are required to be called something as a pramanam. First, the field of operation has to be exclusive. The field of operation has to be exclusive. Meaning, no 2 pramanas can access the same field of knowledge. We'll explain all that. Then it becomes how no point in simply saying Vedanta is scientific logic reasoning. We don't even know what are the methods they are using. No. In this introduction, we are trying to get a glimpse of those methods and then go into the book Fall of Human Intellect. Ganesh, Sariya? Huh? We are permitted to do that, no? One class, one person decides, isn't it? Saturday, Sunday class, Venkat will decide. Wednesday class, Ganesh will decide. And I have to take permission from everybody whether it is okay to cover this portion of it. What are the methods? Pramanam must fulfill 3 conditions. What is the first condition? The first condition is it has to be exclusive. Exclusive means no 2 pramanams can have access to the same field of knowledge. Why it can't be so? We are going to explain that now. If we say why it can't be so, that's what we are. That's where it is so logical. It is. That's where life is so logical. It's so precise and yet very simple. Second is because of this exclusivity that is proved in the first, what follows second naturally? One pramana cannot negate the knowledge gained through the another. Third, since it can be gained only by one, no, it is self-proven. So first condition is what? Exclusivity. Exclusivity. Second condition is what? Any other cannot prove or disprove. The third condition is it is self-proven. It is called pramana. Isn't it? Take a simple example. The color of the charcoal is black. This is the standard example that is given in the original textbook. The color of the charcoal is black. Is it a valid knowledge or invalid knowledge? It's a valid knowledge. Correct? It's a valid knowledge. Because eyes are the instrument that has the capacity to reveal that. So eyes have told you clearly that the color of the charcoal is black. The tongue tasting the charcoal cannot say what? The tongue tasting the charcoal cannot say what? What it cannot say? I agree that it is black. I disagree that it is black. It can neither say I agree, nor it can say I disagree. The second thing. What is the third thing? Once gained, the knowledge through a pramana is self-proven or proven through what is seen as charcoal is black is proven by what? Is proven only by eyes, your eyes and the eyes of others. But nevertheless, the entire field of operation of the pramanam is restricted to eyes only, and the other can never prove it or disprove it. The logic. All the edifice of logic and reason is built on this. That's why it's very important to understand this. Everything is developed. Just like the entire mathematical operations anywhere in the world is only two, addition and subtraction. You know that, no? All mathematical operations comes under only two fundamental things, addition and subtraction. Multiplication and ardham. Multiplication nothing but a faster way of adding. Correct? Division is nothing but a faster way of subtraction. Abdina, multiplication layer in the algebra. What does algebra do? Function is the same. Algebra length, it will go to the next. It will go to the next. Right up to calculus you go. All the basics laid out. What will the person do? Algebra will not be understood. Yeah. Trigonometry will not be understood. Calculus will not, nothing will be understood. Why? Because if you have to understand calculus, you need to understand trigonometry. Not in the sequence. I'm just using generally. Trigonometry burino, algebra burino. Algebra puriyana, multiplication tables, divisions puriyana, fractions puriyana. Adu puriyanuna, addition and subtraction has to be learned. And when you learn addition and subtraction, how would you do? 2 in the mind, 2 in the fingers, isn't it? How do you do 2 in the mind? You can't keep sticking to 2 in the mind and 2 in the fingers. But that basics has to be very clear so that Bhagavad Gita is like trigonometry. Upanishad is like, Upanishads are like calculus. One word எடுத்தோம்னா, you can, one word you can take 5 classes in one word. That's how deep they are. It means what? We have a methodology of understanding here. What is the methodology of understanding that we are trying to develop? The definition of a pramanam. So pramanam correcta purinja, adulend vara knowledge will be valid, and that knowledge will take care of the superimposition. When superimposition goes, bondage goes away. Are you okay till now? Idhula 4 pramanams we saw. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana is one group. Shabda, Veda, Vedanta, Agama is another group. Again, I repeat. Of these 4, Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana is one group. Shabda or Agama or Veda or Vedanta belongs to another group. In a group is Drishta and Adrishta. Clear da? Drishta and Adrishta. So, what is proven through Drishta, if you try to use it to prove Adrishta, what are you doing? What are you doing? It is like saying charcoal is black. Tongue is agreeing charcoal is black. We laugh at it by saying it can neither say it is black nor it can disprove that it is not. Are you able to follow now? It's very clear. The drishta part is what is predominantly we use the word intelligence. That adrishta part is what we call as the intellect. Intelligence and intellect we keep talking, no? It is the drishta part that belongs to the intelligence aspect. The adrishta part belongs to the intellect. That is why we say the world is full of intelligence. Intelligence also has its own logic, reason, analysis, and etc. And people come back saying, what is it we are talking? Intelligence and intellect are 2 separate things. How do you know that they are 2 separate things today? One belongs to drishta, another belongs to adrishta. Are you okay till now? How do you prove that? How do you establish that? To accept Veda or Vedanta as a pramanam, it should fulfill the same 3 conditions. What are the 3 conditions that it should fulfill? What is known through Veda is not known by any other pramanam. What is known through Veda cannot be negated or supported by any other pramanam. 3. The very knowing through Veda is proof of what is known, self-proven. For example, to explain all this, simple thing that we will take is what? Take the example of karma pala. Take an example. In Vedanta, we talk about karma pala. There is a drishta pala and then there is the adrishta pala. The drishta pala is the material benefit that you get. The salary, the worldly benefit, etc. is the drishta pala. What is the adrishta pala? Punya, Papa, Vasanas increasing. Are you able to follow now? Again, I repeat. When we talk about, take a simple example of Karma Pala. In that one word, two things are there. What are the two things? Drishta part of it is also there. Adrishta part of it is also there. What is the Drishta part of it? The skill, the intelligence, the knowledge with which you can do the action, the instruments that you can develop to support the action. Because with hands you cannot do. Therefore, the hand used a hammer, isn't it? The hand using the hammer is also became painful. So extension of the hand is the crane, isn't it? Extension of the hand is the crane, and the crane will lift weight, and the crane will never get tired the way in which the hands get tired. All this belongs to what? Drishta. Correct? What is Adrishta here? When we start talking about Punya and Papa. When we start talking about Punya and Papa, when we start talking about the Vasanas, when we start talking about Vasamsi Jirnani Yada Vihaya Navani Grinnati Naroparani, leave this body and it will take up another body. To what group this discussion belongs to? Drishta or Adrishta? Based on, in the light of what we have discussed. Purida Shankar, Kelvi Purida. Is it Drishtama or Adrishtama? Drishtama. Adrishta, correct. Adrishtan சொல்லியாச்சுனாலே ஒரு பெரிய freedom. What is the freedom? WhatsApp forward லாம் பண்ண முடியாது. Why? Because it is Adrishta by nature. Adrishta means what? If you have gone through the proper study of the Vedas, Vedanta, in the way it ought to be studied, then you will understand it. Having gone through the proper way of studying maths, science, and economics, coming and sitting here is like using that pramanam to prove this pramanam. Are you able to understand the mix-up now? Prasad, Prida. That pramanam, that way of studying can never use, that way of studying can never fit into this pramanam. It means it's a separate way of accessing knowledge. It's a unique way of accessing knowledge. It's a separate way of accessing knowledge. And all that we are doing in Vedanta classes is what? Are we studying the Drishta part or are we studying the Adrishta part of life? Veda, Vedanta equals discussing all that is Adrishta by nature. Adam Bhagavad Gita, he says, Ya pashyati, sa pashyati. Whoever sees it, because this cannot be taught. Because we are bringing in the wrong pramanams to understand this. That is why we are not able to understand. Are you able to follow? Enlightened person. Put 30. An enlightened person will be sitting in meditation, and in that meditative Vijayarangan. 30 போட்டுட்டு அங்க ஒரு மானிட்டர்ல we will be checking. What you will be checking? Alpha wave, beta, theta, gamma, omega, enalamo they are checking in all that. And then finally conclusion. This person is enlightened. And we all will clap at that, no? Aparna. We all will clap at that. We all will agree to that. The fall of intellect lesson will say, this is you clapping is the fall. You accepting that as the pramanam is the fall. Ganesh, you accepting that is the fall. You accepting that as the pramanam is the fall. You clapping for that is a fall. Like the tongue tasting the charcoal, saying, I agree that it is black. People will still clap. People will still clap. People will still clap and say it is proven. Because we are liberal people, no, sir. Because we are, we are not very, we are not like very fanatic here. We are all free liberal thinkers. Since we are all free liberal thinkers, what do we think? We prove. Tongue can prove charcoal as black. Is it called liberal thinking, or what would you call it as? What would you call this as? Insanity, this is. That's why he says, universally there is a statement he makes saying that the human intellect has fallen. He's not saying intelligence has fallen. He's saying the intellect has fallen. You should say the rise of the intelligence and fall of the intellect, you should say, isn't it? Looks like that. The rise of the intelligence and fall of the intellect. What is intellect now? The penetrating capacity. We have seen that. What is intellect? Intellect is the penetrating capacity. What is the penetrating capacity? To see the karma pala of punya and papa hidden in the karma is intellect. If you are able to see that, what will you do? If you are able to see that, correction is not difficult at all. You will never say, I got tempted, I fall, and all that you will not say. Why? Because you know exactly what to do, what not to do. It only means what? Employing the appropriate means of pramanam and following the proper methodology which is required for that study. If drishta is the means for studying science and all the worldly things, adrishta is Veda and Vedanta. That's why we have three types of philosophies, three types of thinking. Again, I repeat, three types of thinking we have. It is called Tarka Janya. Second is called Tarka Pradana. And the third is Tarka Sammata. Again, I repeat. One is Tarka Janya. Another is Tarka Pradana. Third one is Tarka Sammata. Tarka Janya means the entire emphasis is given to perception and reasoning that is circling around perception. They all believe in perception and reasoning purely based on perception and arrive at certain conclusions. Based on the complete faith and belief in the perception and the reasoning done out of these conviction, they arrive at a conclusion. They never accept any scriptures. They never accept anything else. In fact, their own discoveries are their scriptures. What they say becomes their scripture. Whatever they say is what they call it as scripture. That person is a very good person. No, sir. I know that person. I know that person. He's putting up an act in front of you. You don't know. Your own perceptions and the conclusions that you draw from your own perceptions becomes your scripture. Their propositions are taken as a scriptures. This is called Tarka Janya. Purely perception based, purely reasoning, revolving around perceptions. Second is Tarka Pradhana. Tarka Pradhana means second group of people, they accept the Vedas. Vedanta they accept. But Vedanta is a subservient additional source of knowledge. Vedanta will be given a stepmotherly treatment. Whenever convenient, it will be taken and often it will be rejected. Why? Because still the hangover of the previous level. Still the hangover of the previous state. Are you able to follow now? Still the hangover of the previous. Tarka Pradhana. They accept Vedas. They accept Vedanta only as long as it satisfies. As long as it satisfies what? Their conveniences. Whatever is convenient to them will be taken as right, and they will quote, this is what is said in the Vedas also, no? Are you able to follow the second system? The third is Tarka Sammata. Vedanta belongs to the Tarka Sammata category. What is the third one? The reasoning is taken as a support to understand the words of the Vedas and Vedanta. Tarka is not important here. The words of the Vedas are important, and Tarka and the logic, reason, analysis and all is taken for what? Is used to understand the words. It means what? Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te. Bhagavad Gita. You understand now why he is saying that? The Bhagavad Gita, he said, Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te. Keep Shastra as the Pramanam, and logic and reason is to support and understand the words. If logic and reason doesn't make you understand the word, you will not say the word is wrong. You will say your logic is wrong. Are you able to follow? Again, I repeat. The difference is what? If the logic and reason is not able to prove the word, you will not say the word is wrong. You will say, my logic is wrong, my reasoning is wrong. Vedanta is what we are studying in all our classes, and this Vedanta follow what? Is it Tarka Janya, or is it Tarka Pradhana, or is it Tarka Sammata? It's Tarka Sammata. Because some words I may not understand. If I do not understand, Tarka Sammata means I will say the words are right, my logic is wrong. In Tarka Pradhana, I will say my logic is correct wherever the words are in agreement with my logic, that words are correct. Are you able to understand the difference now? Prasad, put the difference. My logic is more important. Wherever the words are in agreement with that, I will say Vedanta is correct. In the first category, Vedas don't come into discussion at all. There is no Vedas at all. What is seen? The Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana alone becomes the Pramanam, which all belongs to the category of Drishta. Why we have to study all this is, remember the formula now. Life is insignificantly Drishta and extraordinarily enveloped by Adrishta. Again, I repeat. Life is insignificantly Drishta. Insignificantly Drishta means there are so many things about life that you can never ever know. There are so many things in life that you can never ever know. The known, the unknown, the unknowable. That unknowable is the subject matter of Vedanta. Look at how deep they are going. What is their inquiry now? They are not inquiring the Drishta part of life. They are inquiring into the Adrishta part of life. And they are inquiring into the Adrishta part of life, and to make the Adrishta part of life logic, to bring in logic and reason and analysis to that Adrishta part of life. Oh my God. That's why we all prostrate to the great rishis of the past. Why? Because the subject matter is Adrishta, and that Adrishta subject, which is by nature, that is Adrishta, they are trying to bring in logic, reason, and analysis, trying to elaborate to us, explain to us. That's why every day when we say thank you, Rishi as a category, special category, we say thank you. Why do we say a special? Why do we call the Rishi as a special category? They are a unique category. They are an extraordinary category. Why they are an extraordinary category? Because they have taken up a subject matter which is Adrishta by nature and bringing in logic, reason, analysis, etc. It means what penetrative capacity they should be having. Are you okay till now? This penetrative capacity is called intellect. The fall of intellect means what? This capacity is fallen in a human being. இப்போ டைட்டில் புரியுறதா ராஜ்குமார்? All of human intellect டைட்டில் எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்றதுக்கு இவ்வளவு சொல்ல வேண்டியிருக்கு, isn't it? Still it is not complete. We have some more which I will take it up in next class. In addition to this, some more is there. Are you able to follow? So when we say the fall, what is the fall? The human intellect, which has this extraordinary capacity to penetrate into the Adrishta and penetrate into the Adrishta and use logic, reason, analysis, etc., brings an extraordinary strength. That extraordinary strength of the intellect is required for what? Why are we interested in developing this strength? What is the reason? To understand bandha is a superimposition. Bondage is a superimposition. And moksha means understanding the superimposition as superimposition. This is intellect. The title. So when we say the intellect has fallen, the intellect has fallen, what do we understand now has fallen? That penetrative capacity to go into the Adrishta and understand Adrishta and keep that as a guiding factor of life has fallen. Not blindly following a scripture. Not being fanatic about a scripture. Not being fanatic about Veda. Not blindly following it as there is a method of questioning, there is a method of logic, there is a method of reasoning, but all towards what? The Adrishta part of life, and the Adrishta part of life is predominant. See, you take a known thing like a rose and inquire. There are millions of things about the rose that is unknown, 3-4 things about the rose that is known. Do you understand that? You take a rose. There are a few things about the rose that is known. Million and millions of things about the rose is unknown. Knowing that 4 factors, the person claims, I know everything. Vedanta says, if you have not penetrated into the adrishta part and understood life, you cannot say, I know, because you can never know. Are you able to follow now? So what is the fall of the intellect here? The fall of the intellect here is understood from what angle now? The capacity to penetrate into the adrishta, understand adrishta is the guiding force of life, and my life should not be dependent on drishta, and it should be dependent on adrishta. Another example for 1 week homework. Don't take loans is the adrishta part of life. For the drishta part of life says taking loans is Purida, Vijayarangan. The drishta part of life is loans. The adrishta part of life says don't take loans. So beautiful. Every aspect of life can be seen in these two. Any aspect of life you take, I will bring in these two. And what is guiding? The adrishta is guiding, but we don't even know it. So when we say Vedanta is the knowledge of life and living, intellect is that which is very vital for knowing how to live life. What is the knowledge of life and living? Knowing the adrishta part, penetrating into the adrishta part and understanding it and making sure that is the guiding force for the choices and the decisions you make in life. There your intellect is alert, available. Are you okay now? If you take the adrishta as the guiding force of life for all your choices and decisions, intellect is working. Now, all the choices and decisions are made on what? Drishta part, intellect has fallen. That is the fall of the intellect. Fall of the human intellect. Intellect of the human. So generally we cannot say fall of the intellect. So it has to be called as the fall of the human intellect. Very, very essential, very useful introductory textbook. When we say introductory textbook, remember it's not elementary book. The words are kept clear here, which the textbooks like Bhagavad Gita Upanishads don't bother to explain. Please understand that when we say introductory textbook, don't call it as elementary textbook. It's not kindergarten textbook. The words that the Bhagavad Gita Upanishads don't bother to explain is explained here. In that sense, we call it as introductory, not in terms of inferiority. Otherwise, introductory textbook, no sir, I'll study Bhagavad Gita directly. It is like algebra, trigonometry, engineering college. Now, I will sit in the engineering class, but I don't understand calculus, I don't understand trigonometry, I don't understand algebra, nothing I know of, but I will sit in the engineering class. Now, what will happen there? Nothing will be understood, isn't it? In that sense, we are talking about it as the fall of the human intellect. A very interesting read. With this, we conclude for today, and we continue with this introduction next week also. I don't know, 2-3 weeks it will take for me to finish all this, and then we will start reading the book. With this background, we will read the book so that whenever we go into the book, I will say, as we saw in the introduction, we'll keep referring to this. This is how we will study this book, The Fall of Human. We'll continue next.